UFC Fight Night, Dawson versus Green, full card predictions. Starting at the bottom, making our way to the top as always. Had a week off last week. Hopefully this week I can just jump right into it. Do good on picks. Starting with Montana De La Rosa versus JJ Aldrich. I'm going to say right away, this is one of the ones where I was really struggling on making a pick because you see both girls are have quite a few losses in the UFC. They have some wins as well. They're kind of 50-50 as far as I'm concerned. JJ Aldrich, I think if the fight stays standing, I think JJ Aldrich is a much better striker. I just want to say that right away. But I think if Montana Del Rosa can get some takedowns, if she can get the grappling going, I think she is the better grappler than JJ Aldrich and can definitely control her on the mat, or at least be able to like hold her up against the cage, get some cage control time. She even had some cage control time against Macy Barber. It's really a questionable one for me. I'm going to go with it's really 50-50. I feel like whoever I pick, I'm going to be mad if I get it wrong. Um, I'll trust ever so slightly in the grappler, Montana De La Rosa, just because I know she's going to look for takedowns. I know she's a wrestler. I know she should be able to at least get some control time against JJ Aldrich. I don't think JJ Aldrich is, really that great on the mat. In fact, I don't know if she even has. She's been submitted twice, never won by submission. Not that a bunch of some fighters don't really look for the submission anyway, but just goes to show that Montana De La Rosa, on the other hand, is like 8 submission wins. Um, that's just something you got to take into account. Montana De La Rosa should be the better grappler. The striking of JJ Aldrich is actually somewhat clean. I don't hate it, but I just think she's pretty flat-footed. I don't think she's the most explosive fighter. In all honesty, I think she's pretty unathletic. And that's not like a diss to her, like it's just the truth. I just don't think she's a very athletic fighter. I think Montana De La Rosa, if not Liang can take you down, I think Montana De La Rosa should also be able to get takedowns here. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this fight is a short notice fight. It is a short notice fight here for JD Aldrich. So I'm going to lean with De La Rosa. I know Aldrich and Stephanie Edgar are different types of opponents. Stephanie Edgar is more of a grappler as well, where Aldrich is a striker. But, I got to pick the grappler over the striker in a matchup like this. Moving right along, we have Johnny Munoz Jr. taking on Arichi Lang. I like Johnny Munoz Jr. here. I think Johnny Munoz Jr., watching him on tape, I know he lost to Daniel Santos a few months back, but Daniel Santos is a very, very good fighter, in my opinion. His striking is very good. He has good enough grappling to stay out of any dangerous positions as far as any submission threats from Johnny Munoz Jr. Johnny Munoz Jr., he didn't look great in that fight. I picked Daniel Santos. I thought that he was the much better overall fighter, even if Munoz did have a jiu-jitsu threat. Arichi Lang, I don't think is on that level of grappling. I think Johnny Munoz Jr. is a much better grappler. And not only do I think Munoz is a better grappler, I think he's a better technical striker as well. His fight against Ludovic Shalinian, he basically won that fight almost completely on the feet. He was, beating up Ludovic Shalinian, outstriking him for 3 rounds, 30-27. Whereas Arichi Lang, and I know some of these guys, like the last fight, some of these guys are more so on Arichi Lang's side, 24-11. But he lost to Ayman Zahabi, got knocked out. Ayman Zahabi's not really known to be a pure power guy, but before that, the Jay Perrin fight, beats Jay Perrin through 2 rounds. Starts tiring out a little bit and I don't want to say nearly gets finished by Jay Perrin, but like he was getting like pieced up by Jay Perrin in the last round, and that's not a good look at all, in my opinion. Cameron Ellis, not really UFC level. Cody Durden and Jeff Molina losses before that. He is moving up to bantamweight. Johnny Munoz Jr., I think he's going to get the win here. Again, the odds are very close, -110, so it's even odds on both sides. I understand why. I think both guys have a shot of winning. I do think the jab of Johnny Munoz is going to be landing before the overhands and the big power punches of Arichi Lang. So I am going to go with Johnny Munoz Jr. If Lang does catch him and finish him, knock him out, I wouldn't be like super surprised. But I do think the better technical fighter, the guy that I know can push through, has a grappling edge as well. I'm going to go with Johnny Munoz Jr. to get this one done. Both guys training at good gyms as well. I just want to mention that as Entrim Gym is where Johnny Munoz Jr. spent, I believe, most of his camp at this time, and Richie Lang fighting at a Fight Ready. So two good gyms. They both should be prepared. Should be a pretty fun fight. This one is Kanako Murata versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Um, I'm gonna go with Kanako Murata, but I'm not gonna be as confident in her as some other people are. Some other people are super confident, think she deserves to be a heavy favorite. I think, she should be able to out wrestle Vanessa Demopoulos. That's not the question, though. The question is, once she does get Vanessa Demopoulos to the ground, will she be able to stay out of different, all the submission attempts from Vanessa? Because I guarantee you, Vanessa will be throwing up submissions off her back, as did Virna Jandiroba. Virna Jandiroba finished her. Not She didn't tap to that arm bar, but she had her in an arm bar. She dislocated her arm. At the end of the round, the doctor called it off, and that was the end of the fight. And that's been what? It's been over 2 years now since she's been in the cage. Vanessa Demopoulos has been fighting very recently. She's had actually 5 fights since Murata's been in the cage. So that's the concern I have here with Murata. If Vanessa Demopoulos just looks like the fresher fighter because she's been in there, a lot, it wouldn't really shock me entirely. But I do have to say Murata should be able to take her down as long as she doesn't get submitted. I think Murata will have the control time. She had 9 minutes of control time against Randa Marcos. And I just think Vanessa Demopoulos, she's 35 years old compared to 30-year-old Kanako Murata. The wrestling should obviously be there for Murata. Vanessa Demopoulos, her striking isn't really that good either. She got completely. I'll get into the Karolina Kovacevic fight because she's also on this card. Karolina is, but Vanessa was getting pieced up in the striking. I don't think either of these girls are really that good in the striking department at all. In fact, I think Kanaka Murata might even be worse in the striking than Vanessa. Like, they're both really bad. But in terms of a grappling match, in terms of them, the fight hitting the mat, I think Murata should be able to hold top control, just ride out the time there, and as long as she doesn't get submitted, she should win. I think it should be a clear win. She only has to watch out for the submissions, and you never know with the judges because they do favor, if it's just control time versus a bunch of submission attempts. You never know if one judge might give the round to Vanessa just because she's more active off her back. So Murata definitely has to try to stay active, not just hold her down. But I do think she'll be good enough to win this fight. Also, the much younger fighter by 5 years. So Nate Maness versus Mateus Mendonca. Um, I don't understand why this is a flyweight fight. It's a little bit interesting to me. I don't know why these guys just don't fight at bantamweight. Mateus Mendonca is moving down to flyweight. Nate Maness is not a flyweight. I don't understand what the point of this is. Shoot the box guy for Mateus Mendonca. I am going to go with Mateus to win. I just don't think Nate Maness is a flyweight. I don't think he's a flyweight. I don't understand why he's fighting at flyweight. His last 2 fights have both. Oh, actually, the Tagir fight. Sorry, the Umar fight was at bantamweight, but the Tagir fight, he's just. I don't understand why he dropped down to that weight class. He should not be fighting at that weight class. He's not a small bantamweight either. He didn't get finished by Umar. I think that's something that you need to look at. Like, you don't get finished by Umar Nurmagomedov, so why are you now moving down? You can compete. He did, sure enough, he did get dominated by Umar, completely, controlled for all 3 rounds. It was a clear win for Umar, but he didn't finish him. It's not like Umar just destroyed him in 1 round. He went the distance with him. It shows that he at least has the ability to go the distance with one of the best fighters in the whole division, in a stacked division like bantamweight. Now you're moving down in weight. Both of them are moving down in weight. I'm going to go with Mateus, though. I do think he's a much younger fighter, 24 to 32. I do think certain fights on this card, I think age is going to play a big factor. Not every single one, but I think this one, Mateus, is going to be the fresher fighter, especially at this new weight class. If you're 24 years old moving down to flyweight versus 32, I think the 32-year-old, the person that's been fighting most of their life at, bantamweight or even heavier in some fights for Nate Maness, I think he's going to struggle again. I don't think it's the right weight class for him. I think Mateus Mendonca's, he has a lot of speed. His contender series fight showed that he's got quick hands, he's explosive, he's got power. Against Javid Basharat, I rate Javid Basharat very highly as a fighter. I think he's actually one of the better bantamweights in the division. And the fact that Mendoka, lost the fight, but had some moments where he clipped Basharat, had some moments where he was in on some takedowns that most other fighters would have gotten taken down, including Nate Maness. If Mendonca has some of those takedown attempts, he would take down Nate Maness. Javid Basharat has very good balance, very good takedown defense. Like I said, one of the best fighters in the bantamweight division. I think Mateus Mendonca is going to win this fight. Although I don't want to, Mateus Mendonca is only 5'6", so maybe that's the reason he doesn't mind moving down. But Nate Maness, 5'10" at flyweight that's, you don't see that very often. But decent skill set, but I just see Mateus getting it done. Next is one of the ones where I was talking about the age factor, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Diana Belbita. So Diana Belbita is 10 years younger than Karolina Kowalkiewicz here. The thing is, though, this is one of those where I have to look a little bit into the age, but I'm not going to say the age is why. I'm picking Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I understand she's about to be 38. This could look stupid in hindsight. Picking a about to be 38-year-old versus a 27-year-old who's pretty much developing into her prime. But Diana Belbita is just so bad in my opinion. And when I say she's so bad, I mean like her striking is awful. One of the worst. Looking at her striking is like just atrocious. It's so atrocious. Carolina, she outstruck Vanessa Demopoulos easy. She beat Silvana Gomez Juarez and Felice Herrig. I think she's a better grappler. I think she's a better striker. I think she's better everywhere in this fight. If Diana Belbita wins this fight, I would Carolina should just get cut from the roster. It's not going to happen if she loses, but she should get cut if she loses to Diana Belbita because Diana Belbita, her striking is like when I say it's so bad, just watch her last fight, and that's a fight she won against Maria Oliveira. Just eyes closed, like it looks like her eyes are closed. She's not looking at her target. She's just throwing with her head down. It's like a middle school fight where the guys have no experience in any martial art. They're just putting their heads down and throwing overhands, and it just looks sloppy and shitty. That's what it looks like to me. Now, if Diana Belbita wins, I would it would just be a classic women's MMA moment. We've had classic women's MMA moments over and over and over. So it really shouldn't come as much of a surprise to anybody if Diana Belbita ends up winning this fight. But Karolina Kowalkiewicz is better everywhere. She should win the fight. It shouldn't be too much of a struggle. If she's any good or any decent at all, she should win. Plus, training out of American Top Team, that also has to play a factor in. Moving along to a bit of I shouldn't say that much more high-level fight because these guys are wild and sloppy as well. But Felipe Lins versus Ion Cutelaba. I'm going with Ion Cutelaba here. Now, Ion Cutelaba, I know he's 17-9. I know he's lost a lot of fights in the UFC. But the guys Ion Cutelaba is losing to is, elite level competition. If you look through Ion Cutelaba's record, he is a basically finisher bust as a fighter. He most of the time, I mean, he has 2 decision wins and 1 loss. He's not the type of guy that likes to go the distance. He likes to, get his opponents out of there. If you look at his fights, though, Tanner Boser beats him in the first round, loses to Kennedy and Zetrico in the second. Kennedy's a solid fighter. Johnny Walker, one of the best light heavyweights in the world, loses to him in the first round and then loses to Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann, another top 15 level fighter, beats Devin Clark, goes to a split with Dustin Jacoby. lose in the first round to Magomed Ankalaev, another guy, Magomed, who's top five in the world. Some people would argue that he's a future champion. Um, he actually fought Magomed Ankalaev twice. The first time he fought him, it was that where he pretended like he was wobble, and the referee thought he was hurt when he wasn't, because he was acting like he was hurt just to try to lure in Magomed so he could fire off some punches and knock him out. Weird ending to that fight. But if you look through his losses, I mean, look at these names that he's losing to. Misha Cirkunov, all right, that's not the best look, but Jared Cannonier, title challenger, possibly going to challenge for the title again. I mean, he whether everyone likes the decision or not, he did beat Sean Strickland, who's a current champion. Um, Glover Teixeira, former champion, Magomed Ankalaev, as I mentioned, great fighter. And then all these three, Kennedy and Zetriku, Johnny Walker, Ryan Spann, all basically top 15 level guys. At least Johnny Walker, top 10 level. Ryan Spann, top 15. Kennedy and Zetriku around that top 15 as well. I don't think Felipe Lins is top 15 level. I think he's been given basically, I don't want to say easy fights, but like Marcin Prachnio sucks. Ovince St. Preux was retiring. That was his last fight of his career. And then Maxime Grishin has a foot out the door. He's 38 years old. Ian Cutelaba is 29, training out of Extreme Couture. He doesn't have a foot out the door. I think he should win this fight and find a finish here. If it does get extended, it could get really ugly, and maybe Felipe Lins could take over. But I'm going to go with the younger guy, the guy that is, 29 years old, the guy that I think probably even has the better finishing upside, especially early in this fight. And the guy I think is just overall fought the much better level of competition and even beaten some, decent level names. So I'm going to go with Ian Cutelaba. Moving on to the main card. Now, this main card is actually, for fight night, this main card is pretty solid. Got some good names on here. Starting with the opener of the main card, and it's Bill Algeo versus Alexander Hernandez. Um, I'm going to go with Bill Algeo. I actually, really like Bill Algeo. Um, he, the one worry I have though with Bill Algeo is Alexander Hernandez. He does have that explosivity. Is that a word? I'll just say he's very explosive. He's very explosive in the first round. Early in the fight, Alexander Hernandez could catch anyone and knock them out. I don't know if I could see this far back. He did knock out Beneil Dariush. Knocked out Beneil Dariush in the first round of their fight. That was way back in the day, but he did beat Beneil in 42 seconds. Beat OAM, Oliver Albin Mercier, who is doing great things right now in the PFL. Obviously, we saw him get, head kicked and basically destroyed by Donald Cerrone. Taught a lesson there, a veteran lesson. Beats Francisco Chinaldo, lose to Drew Dober, beats Chris Grutzma. And then you see how he's kind of had like a 50-50 type of run in the UFC, but he has beaten some quality names. Jim Miller, Trinaldo, solid, OIM, Beneil Dariush earlier on in his career. The thing that you really have to look at, though, for Alexander Hernandez is he does slow down a lot as the fight goes on. I don't think Bill Algeo is going to slow down. I think Bill Algeo, as the fight goes on, is going to get better and better. I think Bill Algeo is a good grappler. I think he's a good grappler, and I think his striking, he should be able to outpoint. Hopefully, because I'm picking him, I'm hoping that he can, at least, as the fight goes on, he can outpoint Alexander Hernandez. The one thing I am sort of questioning is why Bill Algeo was a minus, he was like minus 155, minus 150 or one, like he was a slight favorite, and now he's plus 100. So a lot of money's come in on Alexander Hernandez. I don't know why. I don't know what people know that I don't. Um, it, could this could, in hindsight, this could look really dumb if Bill Algeo's coming in injured, or Bill Algeo's coming in, not 100%. Maybe he had a tough weight cut or something. Like I don't know why everyone's picking, everyone's betting on Alexander Hernandez for him to flip to a favorite this late in the week. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bill Algeo. At featherweight too, Hernandez, his last featherweight fight was against Billy Q, where he was winning early, and then Billy Q just poured on the volume and broke him. I don't know if Bill Algeo is going to be able to break him, but I think Bill Algeo can win the later rounds and win a close decision. Um, I really do want to know why the line got so tight, though. Minus plus 100, minus 120. I want to know why the line flipped. If I know that Bill Algeo's injured or something's up with him, then maybe my pick would be different. But all things considered, I don't know what's going on with Bill Algeo. If he's 100%, I think he wins. If not, I think it could get interesting as far as maybe Hernandez can get it done. But I got to go. With what I know, I think Bill Algeo can win. Next fight is Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn. This one's cut and dry. Drew Dober's going to knock out Ricky Glenn. Ricky Glenn got knocked out bad in his last fight by Christos Giagos. Drew Dober is a tank. I know Drew Dober got knocked out by Matt Frivola a few months back, but Matt Frivola is, he's a steamroller. Good gym training out of for Matt Frivola. Good striker, good wrestler. He's very good altogether. Underrated fighter. If he would have fought Paddy Pimblett instead of Tony Ferguson, Frivola would have ended the hype in the first round, and I think everyone kind of knows that. But in this fight, Dober is going to get it done. Ricky Glenn, I think Drew Dober's better than Ricky Glenn. Clearly in the striking, I think this is going to be a striking fight. I think Drew Dober is going to flatline Ricky Glenn, or at least maybe TKO him. There's not really much to say here. I think this is a bounce back spot for Dober. Next is the featured fight of the night. It is at welterweight. Alex Morono taking on Joaquin Buckley. Um, you know, I'm going to actually go with Alex Morono as an underdog. I'm going to go with Alex Morono as an underdog. And the reason I'm going with Morono is I think Joaquin Buckley is very good. I think Joaquin Buckley is very talented. He's another guy that's got a lot of power. He'll throw up those high kicks and he'll hurt you. He had like a spinning, one of the craziest knockouts ever against Impa Kasagane. Shout out to Impa though. Impa has been doing very good things in the PFL. But I think Buckley is he can win minutes. It's not that he can't win minutes, but I think Morono is a better technical fighter here. And if Buckley doesn't find a knockout, I do think Alex Morono can win this fight. I think if it goes all three, I think Alex Morono is definitely alive for a decision win. Joaquin Buckley, in his UFC fights or he's 4-2 to decisions in his career, but a lot of his fights lost to Nasruddin Imavov, got knocked out by Chris Curtis after he was winning that fight up until that knockout. Andre Fiallo knocked him out. Andre Fiallo, though, we've seen him not look that good in quite a few fights, including losing to Tim Means. Albert Duraev. Duraev is, not much of a striker, solid grappler, but or solid wrestler, I should say. Abdulrazak Alhassan beats him by split. Beats Antonio Arroyo, loses, by head kick knockout to Alessio Di Chirico. And then if you really look through his record, he has some decent wins, but Alex Morono would be definitely a pretty big feather in the cap because I think Alex Morono is an underrated fighter. I think he's definitely a very good fighter, especially technically. And I think Morono, barring a Joaquin Buckley just head kick or, knockout, I think if Morono I know it's easier said than done, staying safe from a guy like Joaquin Buckley, but if Morono can, survive, certain like the head kick attempts and survive that danger and push the fight into the later rounds and try to, go all three. I think in a 3-round fight, in a fight that goes a distance, Morono actually has a lot of upside here as far as a pick, and that's the reason I'm going to pick him. Last fight against Tim Means, beat him by guillotine. Loses Santiago Ponzinibbio in a fight he was winning, by the way. He was up until that overhand right knockout, he was winning. He should be on a big win streak here. That Santiago Ponzinibbio fight. Like besides that, and if he was on his way to winning that fight. If he won that fight, he would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He would have 6 wins in a row if he would have won that fight. So I'm gonna go with Alex Morono here. Next is the co-main event of the evening. We have Body Bags B. Joe Pyfer versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I'm going with Joe Pyfer. I'm not even just saying that because it's a 27-year-old who's making massive improvements versus a 38-year-old. I think Joe Pyfer is. I think he's a future champion. I don't know if I've said it before on here, but I'm going to say it now if I didn't. I think Joe Pyfer is fantastic. I think his grappling. I didn't realize how good his grappling was until he not only did he beat GM3, he challenged him to a grappling match and also ragdolled him there. So beats GM3 in grappling and in MMA. Beating him in MMA is like, all right, it's GM3, like he's a solid fight, but like ragdolling GM3 clearly in grappling, that's pretty impressive. Um, Joe Pyfer training, out of a very good grappling based gym. The fact that he's the level of striker he is and he's getting the grappling looks that he gets just proves to me that like this guy's legit. Um, Even if this guy does fight some of the killers in the middleweight division, I think he'll be prepared. As Abdul Razak Al Hassan definitely has the explosive power. I know I keep bringing up explosive power. I probably said it 10 times in this video, but a lot of guys on this card have that power. They have that one punch knockout ability. Abdul definitely has that. So does Joe Pyfer, though. Joe Pyfer is a clean striker. Dangerous. Every single punch he throws is completely dangerous. He's got a great right hand, great left hook. The dude's just he's a monster, and I think Joe Pyfer is going to be a future champion one day. And that starts with picking up another win here. It'll be inside the distance, I believe. If not inside the distance, knockout for Pyfer. Most likely, it'll just be a dominant decision. I think, regardless of how this, I think he wins this fight pretty clearly. Outside of the power threat from Abdul, I don't think Al Hassan's going to win this fight. I've seen people mentioning his judo and his grappling. Joe Pyfer, he's not out grappling Joe Pyfer. It's not going to happen. Joe Pyfer can out grapple him if he wants to. Joe Pyfer can outstrike him. All he has to watch for is a knockout. If he doesn't get knocked out, Joe Pyfer wins this clearly. Lastly, we have the main event. It is Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson here, training at BTT. Another one. I don't know why so many fights on this card are older guys. Guys that are late 30s taking on guys that are in their 20s, guys that are in their primes. But Grant Dawson's in the prime of his career, 29 years old, out of ATT, training with great competition, great training partners against Bobby Green, who's past his prime. Let's just be honest. Great fighter, Bobby Green. Slick boxing, but the dude's not, he's not in his prime at this point. He's not. I don't think he's going to have the grappling ability to hang with a guy like Grant Dawson. I think Grant Dawson can get to his back and probably submit him. Grant Dawson got to Demir's. I picked Grant Dawson in that fight. A lot of people were picking Demir. I knew that I knew that Grant Dawson had good grappling ability. I didn't think his grappling was that good. I thought his grappling was good, but I didn't think he would dominate Demir like he did. I thought it'd be like a little bit more competitive. It wasn't competitive at all. He made Demir look, easy. And I think if you can make a guy like Demir look easy and just out grapple him like that, 30-27, even maybe 30-26, I think he can do the same to Bobby Green. It is a 5-round fight, so if Bobby Green survives and Grant Dawson gets a little bit tired, I know in the fight against Ricky Glenn, Grant Dawson got real tired in that one, almost got finished. But outside of him just having a huge cardio dump, if his cardio is intact and he can just manage the pace throughout the fight, he's either going to submit Bobby Green or he's going to just dominate him to a decision using his effective grappling, the back takes, the walking in the body triangle, and just holding Bobby Green, looking for submissions, keeping that body triangle locked in, similar to like how Aljo does. Very effective strategy, very good strategy, and I think he can do that. Not the most entertaining, but it's not about entertainment for Grant Dawson. It's about wins, and he does get wins. So I think he'll get another win here. And there it is. Pretty good card. Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green fight night. Very interested in watching Joe Pyfer, one of my favorite fighters to watch, especially since the Contender Series. I mean, hearing about his story, how he hurt his arm in the Contender Series, got back in the UFC, multiple first round knockouts. Just a great story all around. A lot of other good fights on the card. Can't wait to watch it. But thank you guys very much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.